How did your journey in pageantry begin? Because having an international title is a huge deal, and that's amazing that you achieved that. But how did you get to this point?
So I saw the ad that was put out on Instagram for Miss Teen Personality Americas, and I sent it to my mom, and I was like, I think I could win this because it's something I've always wanted to do. I grew up watching Toddlers and Tiaras, and I know that's very different from how the pageant world is now, and we're trying to have it perceived in a different light as well. But even though it was always glitz and glam pageants, I was like, I want to be on stage strutting my stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
when I started to learn about people doing pageants for advocacies, I was like, that's definitely something I'd love to do because I already work within my community. And it would be a pageant, something I've always wanted to do, would be an activity that goes hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw that ad, I was like, it's right here at my fingertips. I asked all the right questions and I ended up applying, and that started my journey. And I cycled through so many different platform ideas
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, I could go this way or I could go this way with all the work that I do already. But since dance is such a huge part of my life, I felt like, what other way to have a platform that I can be active in outside of pageantry besides something I'm taking up a career path in?
100%. And is this your first pageant? Like, was getting this title your first? Wow, that is
Well,
amazing. Like, it's huge to get your the title that you want on your first try.
yes, I was appointed for my Texas title to kind of have a little platform to work with doing events locally. So that in a way is my first title. And I actually come up on a year for that one on May 12th. So that one was something I celebrated. And
That's
then this
exciting.
one was, thank you. And this one was my first one competing
Mm-hmm.
and doing everything behind the scenes and competing against other girls as well. So in
Mm-hmm.
a way, yes, this is my first one.
I actually have never watched Toddlers and Tiaras. I feel like I'm an odd one out in the pageant community because I've never seen it. But I have seen a few clips here and there, and I've got to say it was like a nightmare, some of them.
Yeah,
But I feel
it's,
that's what some people think of pageantry actually is.
And I feel like people I talk to now, they always mention when I say that I have a pageant title, they're like, oh, is it like Toddlers and Tiaras? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, actually, I went through an entire process and I did this, that, and all the other things. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, so it's not just looking pretty and dancing on stage. And I'm like, no. And a lot of that is for TV. So, it's definitely not real at all. So being in this world and seeing that, because I still watch a few
Mm-hmm.
episodes here and there to kind of see the difference. And I'm like, wow, that really is a lot for TV. And it's so interesting
Mm-hmm.
that they decided to show that side of pageants because this side of pageantry was going on back when Toddlers and Tiaras was
Exactly.
premiering. So it's just interesting to me to see the two different worlds of pageantry.
And I know you love to dance, and you've danced on stage a lot. So how can you say that connects to walking on a stage in pageantry? Or I believe yours was virtual, so on video.
Yes, so I would say I've also had previous modeling experience. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger, right across from where I dance, I was able to do modeling coaching.
Wow.
So I ended up getting involved in it a little bit early. But I feel like because in jazz specifically, we would always have to walk. We would have to jazz walk, and we would have to runway walk at a few of our master classes that I
Mm-hmm.
would take. So I ended up kind of learning that world of modeling in dance already. So when I was able to put that to modeling and walking in itself, I just looked at a few pointers and
Oh,
got a few people's. I'm so sorry.
no big deal.
Okay, there we go.
You're back. I can see you now.
Okay, good. I ended up getting a few pointers from people that are modeling coaches and people that have held titles in the past that are in my family. So I was able to translate what I had knowledge in dance and take those pointers and
Mm-hmm.
kind of just push it forward.
That's amazing. And I feel like sometimes girls in pageantry are almost not quite shamed for it, but like seeing someone enjoy the glitz and glamour, they're like, oh, really, that's all you enjoy about pageantry. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with embracing the glitz and glamour and having fun on a stage and also getting to enjoy the leadership opportunities.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's really what captivated me with personality pageants.
Mm-hmm.
I really got to showcase who I am and the fact that I love the glitz and glam and I love putting on the
Mm-hmm.
makeup and walking in a really pretty scene. But I also do this work for my community and get nitty gritty. And I end up working with so many different people and want to showcase that in a way that connects to looking pretty as well.
Mm-hmm. I know dance has a lot to do with your posture and like standing straight and looking like beautiful and graceful as you walk. So, are there any tips from dancing that have come over and helped you in pageantry?
Absolutely. I've always actually been told people would comment on my posture ever since I was younger because one of my teachers, that was something she instilled in us. And I feel like from the people that I've learned to walk from, they always say your upper body and your shoulders are so important when you're walking. So I would say keep your posture, keep your shoulders slightly back, but don't be afraid to move because looking too stiff, you've I've heard that people can say you can come
Mm-hmm.
across unconfident, which I understand, but I feel like you should have a little bit of movement and that gives you confidence even if you don't feel
Mm-hmm.
confident, but then I feel like you get a little bit more comfortable when you're moving because it feels like normal walking. So
Mm-hmm.
I say posture for sure, but keep that comfortability while you're walking as well because that's not the biggest part of your whole pageant experience, but it is a big part you're getting graded on.
100%. Because I know that posture can do a world's difference when it comes to your confidence level, even with how you perceive your confidence level to be. Because if you are standing straight, it feels like you're taking up more space in a room and you're feeling more comfortable. And you can talk to people eye to eye rather than like slouching and feeling like down on yourself. And I've noticed that when I consciously think about what my posture is like, then I sort of like instill confidence in myself without even meaning to.
Same. And, I've been taught of the Superman pose. I don't know if you've heard of that. Like
I've
when you
heard of it.
stand in the,
It's
yeah,
great,
when you
yeah.
stand in the mirror and you, for 5 minutes and you say a phrase over and over, like, I am powerful. And you start to feel that. And that
Mm-hmm.
posture helps you take on that kind of confidence and that mask, if you will. Even if you don't feel that confidence all the way, it's in your body. Your body remembers that.
Mm-hmm. Fake it till you make it almost.
Absolutely. I've heard that so many times.
And can you tell me more about your experience in dance? Like, how did you get into it, and how did you decide that this was the platform that you wanted to do?
So I put this in my platform story. So my mom put me in like every activity you can imagine when I was just 2 years old. She put me in golf as a 2 year old. She put me in tennis. I was swimming. I was doing karate. I was doing gymnastics. So all of these things. And as I got older, they kind of started slowly trickling out. And I started focusing on a few different activities I wanted to do. But then once I got to an age where I needed to start thinking about my career, choices in a fun way rather than just an
Mm-hmm.
academic way. I knew that something about dance has had my heart from the start. Ever since I started to prancing around in my combination class, I feel like dance has stolen my heart from the beginning because I've always taken up more hours in dance opposed to the other activities I was doing. So that was kind of a front runner for the longest time. And during that time, I was raised in kind of ballet strict studios.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really see many girls that looked like me. The studio I started at, there was this one dancer. Her name is Ashley Murphy. She's a professional dancer now.
Mm-hmm.
She was the only dancer I saw really growing up who looked like me
Oh.
around me. And every summer she would come, she would do summer intensives. And I feel like she would instill that confidence in me because I was able to see a girl making it in this world who looks like me,
Mm-hmm.
besides all the other girls who look the same. So I think that kept me going and that want to be the person that these girls see that looks like them kind of made me go towards this direction in a platform as opposed to going in another direction in dance.
Love that.
Having Thank you. Having inclusion in dance has made me feel a lot more belonging in the community, and I want younger girls coming up. Even though the world is changing, it's not changing at a fast enough rate. And I want these younger girls to see someone fighting for their inclusion in this community because it's still not where it should be in 2024.
How would you say it's affected you as a child? You said that you were one of the only one or two people who looked like you. How would you say that affected your mentality going into it?
Oh, that affected me a lot. I There was a lot of times, even now, I still want to quit because I'm like, why am I the only one that looks like me? And all these other girls are getting better opportunities because there's either more that look like them, so they're getting focused on more, or because my anatomy is made up different than these other girls. So I'm not maybe progressing at the same rate as them because I just don't move the same way as them. So
Mm-hmm.
I always felt like I was in the back or on the bottom of the class just because I was one of the only ones that looked like me. And
Mm-hmm.
growing up, it never really changed. Not to mention, all of our dress codes were catered towards the white girl because ballet is from a European country. So they all looked the same, and I looked out of place. So growing up, that was always in the back of my mind. So I always had to work harder because of that. And just because of who I am, my work ethic, I work harder anyways because wanted my training to improve a lot faster than it was
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't atomically made up the same way as the other girls. So I just had to work twice as hard. And I feel like that's shaped who I am because my work ethic is just so much stronger
Mm-hmm.
than it would have been if I had kind of an easy ride, so to speak. But it affected me a lot, which is why there was just a huge tug for this to be my platform.
Mm-hmm. And I know that in ballet, it requires you to be fairly light so that you can do the high jumps and the lifts and such. And I know that anatomy can play a
Mhm.
huge role because I've always been fairly tall compared to most people. And I know that ballerinas, generally, you need to be like on the shorter side so that your bones are lighter, so that you have less muscle. And how could you say that you being like a different, like a person of color, how could you say that that affected you compared to like other girls who were also dancing alongside you?
Oh, it's affected me a lot. There's so many times I can think back to where I strongly feel like I was in the same position technically, if not maybe slightly better than the
Mm-hmm.
person who got the lead role because they were a certain height and skin tone, or because I my muscles are a lot heavier than other people not of color. And I feel like it people would always say it's easier to lift them, which is not true because when I got to studios that were owned by people of color, they were able to cater to us girls that wanted to learn partnering. So we were being lifted by men and women even that were capable of lifting us. It was never a thing of, oh, they need to be lighter or they need to be shorter. It's people still in the same mindset of what ballet has always been for centuries upon centuries, not changing their mindset as we change as a society.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that still is catering towards a less we see not as many girls of color or boys of color in this industry continuing on professionally
Mm-hmm.
because in these studios when they're young starting out they see automatically that it's catered to people that are shorter or lighter for no reason because that's just their one track mindset.
Mm-hmm. That's such a shame because I know in ballet your figure matters a lot, and so many people have gotten eating disorders and such because of that, because they tried to fit themselves into a box. What has your experience with that been, and what advice can you give other people?
I was actually going to say this is something I don't open up about much, but I have developed because I've been in so many studios
Sorry
where,
if
of
that
course,
was too personal of a question.
no, no, it's okay. I wanted to talk about this actually in my blog, so it's perfect that I'm gonna go ahead and be able to open up to you about it. Um, so, because we've always been in leotard and tights as ballerinas,
Mm-hmm.
I've always looked at myself in the mirror and we're always constantly critiqued on our posture or our body weight. And I've had dance teachers say to me, I can see what you have for lunch, Ashton.
Oh,
And yes,
that's
things like that cater to that mindset. And I did develop an eating disorder that I'm still recovering from today, still battle today. And I know a lot of dancers, a lot of my friends that have eating disorders in different forms because we've come up a lot under a lot of strict ballet teachers who have that Russian mindset where it's more acceptable to say things to children of that nature maybe there, but that affects us because of our society here in America.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of us have developed eating disorders. And you don't have to because there's so many things you can eat healthily if you want to be a vegan or you want to be a vegetarian. This is
Mm-hmm.
something we've covered in consumer nutrition as well, which I took this class in order to have a better relationship with food
Mm-hmm.
because of what I've gone through for these past 17 years. I've been dancing for 17 years,
Oh
yes.
wow.
Yes, I know it's crazy. I have to think about that every time someone asks. But I took that class to help me kind of have a better relationship with food and with what I can eat. in relation to working out and what works for my body rather than what my dance teachers have told me to eat or what they tell me I need to cut back on. So I feel like it's something you have to look at what works for your body and what works for your level of working out, whether that
100%.
be dancing or Pilates or whatever type of working out you do. And I know it's better, easier said than done, but when
Mm-hmm.
people give you those type of criticisms that they think come across as corrections, you have to kind of let that slide off your back and not affect you as much because mentally that will take a toll on you.
Mm-hmm.
And as a society, we should have teachers that shouldn't be correcting in that way, but we have to adapt and learn that some people are old school and that's just what they were raised
Mm-hmm.
on and there's no changing.
True, because you can't really change how somebody else thinks, but you can change to how you react to it. And
Yes.
that I feel has a lot to do with your mindset because if you're too dependent on what other people think of you, you're never going to be happy in life. That at least I found that because if I worry too much about what a stranger on the internet or even somebody I care about, if I think too much about what they want for me or what they're thinking of me, then usually I feel much worse about myself and it never leads to a good place mentally.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like, when it comes from people that are our family or our friends, we kind of take that to heart a little bit
It
more.
can
And
hurt the
even
most.
strangers, yes, and even strangers, like you said, that can hurt the most too, because it's like, why is this random person I don't know critiquing me in this way? But that's why I'm also such a big advocate on mental health, because we have to be so strong within ourselves to understand that sometimes these people are going through things and they don't necessarily mean what they
Mm-hmm.
say, or they're just deflecting. And we shouldn't let that affect us. We should maybe help them or just understand that they're going through something and leave them be and not let it affect us because that's not who we are.
Mm-hmm. And even though I'm not a dancer, I have actually also experienced like not exactly an eating disorder, but not feeling happy with the way I looked. And I remember for a few years there, I was like trying all different fad diets and I was just unhappy that nothing worked. And I think for like a solid 2 months, I lost my period before I realized, okay, something is wrong. I need to
Yeah.
stop this and I need to get back on track. So from there, my goal sort of shifted to rather than trying to be like super skinny, which is obviously not good for my body type and obviously not good for my bone structure, why not try to build as much muscle as I possibly can? Because having two older brothers and seeing them always hitting the gym, I was sort of like, I want that. And it's the rush of endorphins. It feels really good. And I can bet that dancing feels something similar when you just get your body moving and you enjoy working out rather than doing it because you want to look a certain way. And I found that that really helps. Having some sort of enjoyment and some sort of connection to what you're trying to do and having a healthy relationship with food rather than thinking, oh, I need to do this because I want to look like this.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you found a healthier way of living and became happier with yourself as
Thank
well.
you.
Of course. And yes, dancing and working out for me personally, I found different ways to combine dance and other forms of working out. And even other forms of dance are different ways to help me kind of release or become healthier in a sense, become stronger, and kind of build a better relationship with myself and with food because I have to watch what I eat in relation to how much I'm working out. So I feel like taking on these activities where I have to work out and be active and keep up with what I'm eating, not tracking in a sense, but just keeping up with it healthily has helped me have a
Mm-hmm.
better relationship in recovering with my eating disorder.
And I'm so happy for you, honestly, because eating disorders are a huge deal. And I feel like not as many people talk about them as they should. And as much as I am excited that we can sort of relate on this, even though I didn't technically have an eating disorder, I also think
Mhm.
it's very sad that this is a topic that has to be spoken about because this is really something that it shouldn't happen. Like, if you take care when you're raising children and when you're talking about like what you say to people, then you can
Mhm.
really influence the course of their life because one rude comment can change everything. It can fall down like dominoes. And this is a conversation we shouldn't have to have, but now we kind of need to.
Absolutely. And especially, it's so sad that you see it increasing among young
Mm-hmm.
teens, young children, even, that these habits are kind of developing early in life where you have to battle that for a long, long time after, or you just keep that habit. Because I've seen on TV, Housewives, I've watched the Housewives. There's a housewife on there currently who she's kind of publicized her battle with her eating disorder, and she's dealt with it for a long, long time. And it's just so sad to see that it's something that we have to talk about because it's something that so many people are going through.
Exactly. And I actually had a conversation with Clara about this. Like, I believe she was Miss Personality Quebec or Miss Teen Personality Quebec. I forgot. I'll have to check on that. But her advocacy was actually eating disorders. And it was really interesting. And
Mm-hmm.
she gave me a bunch of statistics about how many people have eating disorders. And one of the things we discussed is that it's actually very underdiagnosed because people can feel ashamed to talk about these things. They can feel like they're different from other people and not realize that more people than they think are actually struggling from the same thing. So it can be easier to find community if you decide to talk about it and you decide to like speak up because you may be able to help not just yourself but so many other people.
That's absolutely true, and it's crazy because I I love food and I love eating, but I just had such a odd relationship with food and gaining weight
Mm-hmm.
because of seeing myself in a leotard almost every day. And I would always watch my weight and then started watching what I was eating. Regardless of loving food, I started having to discipline myself to be like, oh no, don't eat that. Or if you want to eat that, you can't eat so and so many meals in order to eat that. And then that would just become
Yeah.
kind of bad on my physical health as well. And then that started taking a toll on my mental health. So it's just a spiral. And it's unfortunate that we have to bring awareness to it, but I love that it's something that we are bringing awareness to.
Mm-hmm. And I feel one of the things that people don't talk as much about is like cultural foods because when
Mm,
I was looking into like different diets and stuff a few years ago, very few of them actually include like cultural foods. And I've noticed like being an Indian, I love to eat my food every day. Like I cannot do without it. It'll be disastrous. It really affects like my mood, my mental health if I don't get the food that I like. And
yes,
many people don't talk about that. They're like, oh, just have rice and beans and like some boring kale salad for the rest of your life. And it's not feasible for most people. Forget about being healthy or not healthy. It's if you don't enjoy what you eat and if you don't get to celebrate your culture while you're eating, I don't think that you're doing yourself any favors.
absolutely. And I'm so happy we just moved back to the South. Um, we love Southern food, we love good home cooking. And being a military family, we haven't really been in the South much. We've kind of been like all over, and people always claim to have Southern food or comfort food,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not the same as like our good home cooking. And I feel being back here, having had so many plates already, I feel that I feel different. You know, I feel
Mm-hmm.
happier. I feel more comfortable because it's food that I've wanted and food that I've missed for the past 13 years we've been gone from here,
Mm-hmm.
moving around.
Wow.
And getting that taste of it was just like, we're back home. And it was, you know, so I completely understand that. And it would also, I wouldn't want to eat after I had my good home cooking whenever we were
Mm-hmm.
away, and our family would send some with us because I wasn't experiencing my food, and I would always save it and ration it. And then that also kind of played into a different relationship I had with food after because I just kept those habits up. So definitely not having good cultural options in so many different parts of the US or in
Mm-hmm.
other countries, even online for these fad diets, like you mentioned. It's unfortunate because that can create a different relationship with food in itself.
Because some people, even if they like don't have restaurants near them, they don't have the ability to cook. Maybe they don't have
Yes,
the space. Maybe they don't know how to cook. But that shouldn't take away from the fact that they should have those options and they should be able to enjoy what they enjoy.
absolutely. And it's so unfortunate that in certain parts of the US and I'm sure other countries, you can only get certain foods because I've noticed there's different foods down here that are
Mm-hmm.
available than what's available in Texas or what was available in Nebraska. And I would have to kind of switch my options of what I would eat every time we would move. And that would create an interesting gap in what I was eating if I was eating. So, not having the options everywhere, at least
Mm-hmm.
within driving distance, was not a good way to be in recovery with an eating disorder.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, one of the big things is ingredients. Sometimes you don't always find the correct ingredients. Moving to North
Yeah.
America from India after living there for 11 years, there are a lot of things in India you don't get in North America at all.
Yeah.
For example, one of them is like Alfonso mangoes, and I love them so much. They were my favorite thing. And I'm just looking forward to the day when I can go back down to India and have them, and it's like, it'll feel like home to bite into
Yes,
a nice mango again.
I completely understand that. And I actually just did in my consumer nutrition class, I did a dish in India, and it was so interesting to see how different the ingredients are here that you
Mm-hmm.
would normally put in that dish that you would have to modify in North America,
Mm-hmm.
or things that just weren't available, or the price difference in it.
For example, saffron. I believe saffron by kilogram
Mhm.
is more expensive than even gold, and you don't get
Yeah.
it easily at all. And it's so difficult because some recipes kind of need it, and you
Mhm.
will have to avoid those foods. And that's just, it's such a shame to me because you can't really do anything about import and export costs, so they are going to be more expensive. But it's sad sometimes that you can't always access the same foods that you're used to.
It definitely is because it changes the taste of a dish.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And shifting gears a little bit, you talked about how you are in a military family and you're used to moving around, and I can really relate to that, having moved countries and then provinces. So, can you talk to me a little bit about what your experience was?
Yes, so I've also put this on my website that I'm currently working on. I hope to release very soon.
That's
Um,
exciting.
Thank you. As a military family, it's been a little difficult with friends because I get attached to places
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to leave. And I feel like that kind of changed my mindset when we move into a place. I go in there like, okay, don't get attached to these people. And then I kind of become lonely. So then I have to get
Mm-hmm.
attached to people because I just, even though I'm an introvert, I'm kind of on the cusp of an extrovert. So I do like having a few friends that
Mm-hmm.
I would go out with and, have over here and there. But every time we would leave somewhere, it was so hard. And we ended up moving back to San Antonio for a second time. So leaving those people this time was even harder.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely an adjustment. Also, not for the weak. I would say I'm very grateful for the lifestyle though, because I've got to meet so many different people and so many people from different cultural backgrounds or different family backgrounds. So I've enjoyed meeting so many different people, a variety of different people, because I've gotten to make connections with these people. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll call up people from when we lived in Nebraska and I'll be like, hey, I'm coming to Nebraska. You want to hang out? Or I still have dance connections up there. So I'll go up there for dance and teach or choreograph. Or for my platform, I have one of my studio directors I work with up there kind of constantly in the Midwest because we built that connection. So I do have those connections with people in these places where I know it's going to last
Mm-hmm.
long times, but then there's some of those connections that I didn't want to let go of that unfortunately fizzled out just because we had to move. So
Mm-hmm.
it's an adjustment, but still grateful for the lifestyle.
Mhm. That's wonderful. I love how you talked about forming new connections and meeting new
Mhm.
people. That's such a positive way to look at it, and I love that. I
Thank you.
also found that it's more difficult when you're really young because when you're very young, it's difficult to like keep in touch with your friends online, for example, because people just usually go out and play and you yell your friends' names and they'll like come out running from their house and then you'll all play together. So it's very hard to switch from that to like being completely online and only getting to talk to people on phone calls because I was around 11 when I moved initially to Canada and that was huge
Mhm.
because I was used to like just running downstairs and like meeting all of my friends at around the same time. But then when we came here, you can't really call them the same way. You have to like schedule times and it feels so clinical almost. But what I've also noticed is with the true friends, with the friends that really care about you, they will make time for you. And that's sort of almost a test of friendship when you move.
It definitely is because like I said, I've noticed those people in certain states where we still have those connections.
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved back to San Antonio, it's like we picked up with some people like we never left. And there's a few connections I really wanted to hold on to, but distance just, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
is a true ultimate test of friendship. And it's different to go from hanging out every day and seeing each other at school every day to just talking online here and there, or that bond fizzling out and then you just see what each
Mm-hmm.
other are doing on social media.
Mm-hmm. And it's also something that not many kids have to experience when they're
Hmm.
in their early years. So it's very rare to find
Yeah.
people like you and me, sort of that have gone through that. And it's like a nice connection. It's
Yes,
sweet.
it is. Because even though there's so many military families, I just feel like within a lot of friends I make, they're like, yeah, I was raised here, or I've lived in Texas my whole life. Maybe I moved within Texas a few times, but I've lived here my whole life. So even though I feel like there's a lot of military families out there, I feel like I haven't met a lot of them. So I haven't really gotten to share that experience of moving around with people. So it is nice to share this
Mm,
connection.
100%. And how would you say moving around, has it affected pageantry at all for you, or has it not?
I would say because I started last year, that is something that I had to think about in advance because I knew my mom was coming up on her time to leave for the military and her position. It was
Mm-hmm.
about 3 years, 3 to 4 with COVID. We ended up staying 5 with COVID. We ended up staying in Texas again. And I had to call Sophia and I was like, I don't know if we're moving to Germany. Will my title be okay? And then I was like, but I am moving to Louisiana. Will my title be okay? So it's definitely something I've had to talk with her about. But working with her with personality pageants, it's been such a breeze, such an ease,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, with my title and working. And since my title is an international title, it's kind of been easy to work with people all over already. So that didn't really affect me in a way, but
Now you
I
can
was
live
kind of
anywhere and you
frantic.
have the title for it
Yes.
because it's international.
Yes. I was kind of frantic though, because I was like, we're moving to Germany and that is not in the Americas.
Oh no,
So
that's
I was like, oh, what do I do? But we didn't move to Germany, so
just
it's
add an
okay.
America's plus Germany title.
I know, right?
Just special for Ashtyn, like a new title for this
That's just
year.
a new title, right? Extended title. So that's so funny.
Mhm. And
But yeah.
yeah, sorry, you were saying?
Oh no, that was all.
Mhm. And what do you envision for your future going forward now with pageantry, with dance, with anything?
I definitely want to continue. Um, I'll be a miss. That's so crazy because I
Oh,
turned 20 in November. I'm
oh,
19.
I'm 20. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I'm technically a
Oh,
teen title holder now.
I know, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, can I squeeze in another one before I turn 20?
Age
But
jump can
I
be sad.
definitely, I know, right? I definitely want to continue
Mm,
in pageantry, especially since I just started. And because I'm older, I feel like it is a bit easier for me to do a bit more with my advocacy
mm,
and my platform. So I feel like it's kind of a perfect age and spot for me to continue on with pageantry. And even if I don't, I am going to continue on with my platform. I've already made connections moving back home to work with people here and where I'm going to college. I've connected with people there. So I'll definitely continue working on my advocacy and hopefully growing my platform to work with super big names in the dance industry.
mm.
And alongside that, I'll continue competing in pageantry until I can't anymore.
Yeah, I feel like what's the most exciting thing for me to see is when I see fellow like pageant sisters growing and changing throughout their pageant experience and like seeing where they started from versus where they are now. To me, that's something that's really exciting. That's something that's really special about pageantry.
Yes, and I love watching what everyone is doing with
Mm-hmm.
their platforms and seeing what titles they go from this title to that title, and I'm just so proud of everyone. Even though I haven't officially met anyone yet, I just love watching everyone's journey virtually from afar. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be so wonderful when I get to meet everyone and just be like, I'm so proud of you.
Because I remember watching your crowning and I was like so excited. I was like, oh yes, we have one more girl joining us in the personality pageant system. And I couldn't wait to see like where you go and how you grow from getting your title. And it's super amazing to see what you've done since getting your title. And I'm really proud of you for that. I love that.
Thank you. And I've been doing a lot of behind the scenes work because I knew we were coming up on our
Mm-hmm.
big move. So I was like, I feel so bad because I'm not really putting a lot out on social media and I'm not really being so flashy right now. But that's because I couldn't really do many events
Mm-hmm.
with us in the process of moving because moving with the Air Force just takes a lot. But now that we're kind of grounded, I'm so ready to get everything I've been working on just pushed out there like at once. Everyone's gonna be like, oh my gosh, she has been working.
Do you have any plans to come to like nationals this summer and meet everyone?
Yes, if I am not moved in or having anything to do with my dance team in college, I'm gonna be there. Like I promise you, I will be there.
That's gonna be amazing. I'd love to meet you in person.
Yes, oh my gosh, I cannot wait. I can't wait to meet everyone, but I can't wait to meet you.
Mm-hmm. Nationals, I feel like it's going to be exciting because I know there are a few girls who competed in online and now they're coming back to nationals. So that's going to be fun to see and fun to see like where everybody's gotten in their lives. And I'm super, super eager to see how things change.
Yes, and I watched last year's nationals virtually because I really wanted to be there, but
Mm-hmm.
with some dance team stuff, it was kind of last minute, but I was almost there. So this next time coming up, but
Fingers
it's gonna
crossed.
be
We'll
interesting. I
make
know,
it, don't
right?
worry.
It's gonna be interesting to see how much the girls have grown since watching it virtually and hopefully being
Mm-hmm.
there in person and just seeing over that week how much they grow.
Because I know, like, from competing in nationals, day one versus like the last day, it's completely different. Like, you feel a
Yes.
mental shift about you're first nervous and then you're excited and then you're nervous again. And you're like, oh my goodness, I cannot do this. And you're like, yeah, I got this. And it's this wave of emotions. And
Mhm.
seeing where you end up on national day, it's like I felt confident. I was like, yeah, no matter what happens, it's gonna be good. And I'm super excited to see the girls who are going through this nationals because at Queen Alberta, I had the pleasure of being there and seeing that, and the nerves were like getting to me, even though I wasn't competing.
I get that. I really do. Because even though I won't be competing because I'm not in Canada, I feel like I'm going to be nervous for the girls, especially being there with everyone for the entire week and forming that connection. I'll be like, I feel your nerves. I'm sharing that with you.
And do you have any final thoughts before we end this interview?
I am so happy that you had me on here. I've been watching all of your other interviews and I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
oh
so
my
sweet of
gosh.
you.
Yes, I love them. I'm like, oh, they're so well spoken and I love seeing their banter and conversation. So I thank you so much for having me on here.
Same
And I
here.
cannot, of course, and I cannot wait to just spread the word of the Inclusivity and Dance Project and shout it from the rooftops.